I'm doing the Story of Us video, and it's one of my favorite stories. And the song came on the radio while I was playing with how to put a better thumbnail up there, and I'm glad YouTube has added some more features for those of us that do our videos by phone. So thank you, YouTube. Um, the song is Feels by, I'm gonna say Sun Miu. It's Mieux, and there's a hook in it that's like, and it feels like home, and it feels like home. And that's what this memory kind of feels like to me. And I'm not sure, it's one of those, how do you put it into words sort of thing. It's not a long one either. It's so when we when I got us into what we affectionately called have called the blue house since forever, because our oldest son started referring to people's houses by their color. So we had the blue house. And it's funny because at some point my DM and one of his friends, he was sort of a mutual friend of ours for a while, but he was definitely his friend first. And he had come over and they were going to start playing music, and I still remember leading up to that. Like we had this little tiny dining room nook-ish area that my DM was all excited about. He always wanted to have his music space. It's one of the things he got to have growing up for a while, was like his drum set in his bedroom once some of his siblings had moved out, and he could have that space. And so like that was a fond thing for him, and he'd always wanted to have that more set up. I don't know if he wasn't able to do it with those before me or not. I just know that music was not a thing he was able to focus on. And when we had met, and this was 4 or 5 years after we had met, no, but like 5 or 6 years after we met, when we got into the house after the apartment. And I know in the apartment, well, I don't know if I told the story specifically enough, but there was a point in time when when he was able to bring everything in from storage, and was so happy that I genuinely love music. I genuinely love it. I've always wanted to pursue it. I wasn't able to growing up because my parents were all, oh, it'll just be a bunch of noise, you know. um, and I'd always wanted to, and that's one of the things, it's one of the reasons that I fell in love with him. Like, one of our first experiences was another story I'll have to tell a different day, about him playing me music in a cold garage on a friend's guitar. Like, so that for me was great. And when he was excited to unload the music stuff, and actually we found places to set it up in the apartment, it was a little weird because we didn't have much space. But once we had a house, there was room for a drum set and everything, and he was all excited. It was so great, to see him know that by the time we got into a house, that he could claim some studio space, and that wasn't a problem with me. I wasn't going to get in the way. He'd been, in fact, playing in a band with a friend for like over a year, and man, that was like sacred space to me. Like I had my insecurities about, hello butterfly. I had my insecurities about him going out and doing things, because I'm not stupid. I know what kind of I know what kind of guy he is, and or how kind of guy he was. I won't say that he is that now, but I knew what kind of guy he was. And but when it came to him going to play in his friend's band, like that was one of the only times he actually asked to have a boundary on communication. And the funniest thing is, it was the time that I wasn't going to um, participate in any way energetically in that, because I just loved that he was there. So, well, my participation was, yay, you go do that. I know you love your music. And in any case, so him and a friend, I know, you know what, that they do. They think they're players. That's what made me laugh about saying who he was, and is, because I've never he's never really actually been a player sort, but he does try to act like a player sort and thinks he's a player sort, which is really funny to tease him about it. And it's a lot of societal conditioning, though. A lot of guys think that that's what a man does or looks like or acts like, a lot of machismo and things like that. So, in any case, back to the story. um, when we were in there, there was a point in time when they were playing, and they seemed to be having an okay time. This friend had reasonable. a reasonable repertoire with the guitar, but definitely, intermediate level. And he really liked to focus more on like power chords and things like that, which is fine. But I knew that my DM really wanted a little something, I don't know, peppier. And I wanted to play too. And I remember it took me a little while. Like I left them alone when they were having their time because I didn't want to interfere in it. But then at some point I was just like, you know what? It's my friend too, and worst thing they're gonna say is that we want to have a boys only band time or whatever thing it was. And I mean they didn't. And I learned to pick up a bass. I knew a little bit about guitar by then. I had been trying to learn since I was a teenager after I saw my DM first play because I'm like, you know what? There's no reason I can't just try to make it happen. And so I knew a little tiny bit. I knew more on keyboard, things like that, and I had spent a lot of time learning how to do digital music with Karmic that I was with a few, or not a few, like years before then, before we got, would it be? It's funny remembering the timeline of like the first 6 to 7 years. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 years before then. And so I knew how to make melodies. I knew how to do all this. So I knew enough. I felt confident enough to say, you know what? Okay, you got a guitar, and my DM wanted to play drums. So I was like, what about a bass? Right? That's what puts the band together. Now I was crappy. I was crappy, but I've one of the things I know my DM has always admired about me is that I don't let that stop me. Crappy or not, good or not, raw talent or not. If I want to try something, I do it. And I was just thinking we were having fun. And I noticed that neither one of them wanted to start. Like that was part of the reason that they weren't quite having as much fun. Like, or my DM would start, but he had these nice peppy jazz drums and things like that, and the friend was wanting something a little different, and then same thing, like the friend would play what he wanted, and it'd be like more heavy metal type stuff, and my DM would play with it, but they're both kind of a little bored, and it was really fun to get in there. I just started trying things. And the bass, I mean, I won't say it's easy, but it's not quite as hard. And I'd get them to show me, okay, like, it was funny kind of learning this is like, okay, what's that power chord? Okay, that's an A. And then I'd ask my DM, where do you find A? All right. And, I'd figure out where, like, we just pick 4 chords. And then I learned to play with that. And then I started getting onto YouTube and teaching myself a lot more, learning some funk riffs and things like that. Well, we would still get these moments when we either couldn't play something right or we just weren't in the groove just yet. And I can't remember whether it was a day that we had the friend over or that it was just me and my DM with him on the drums and me on the bass and like, come on, let's jam, play with me. Just play with me, damn it, that's all I wanted. But we got on there and we were talking about, we weren't talking about, see, there's so many different times that this thing came up. It's called the Wrong Note Song. And I have many memories of it and they mushed together. I'm pretty confident the first time was when my DM was on guitar. I can't remember if we had the same friend or a different friend on drums. That friend didn't really like drums. I think we had a different friend on drums. And I kept hitting the wrong note, and my DM is a very accomplished guitarist, and so he doesn't usually hit the wrong note. That's what makes it so funny whenever it happens, and I've heard him play so much that it still makes me snicker because I know he's playing so well that in any of his music that he actually, like, sent to me or sent to someone or put up online or anything, the little like imperfections in it, nobody would notice it, but I do. And I love it, and I love that he was willing to record and leave stuff like that sometimes. He used to spend hours and hours just like going back to fix it, going back to fix every little thing. Is such a Virgo Mars thing to do. um, in any case, I started saying, you know what, let's just play the most awful chord sounds. It doesn't have to be chord sounds that you can make, like the flattest, the weirdest combinations you could put together. And and I just started Oh, I can't even remember. There was a joke about a song that I was gonna call Love, and it was just like, bow, bow, love, bow, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. But I had also gone on a rabbit hole tangent for a while about pointing out that there are lots of bands who either still are famous or had some fame and fun by being awful on purpose. And we'd actually been able to go experience some of those bands. And it's funny to say that, but I'm gonna name it. I don't know if they're still a band, but there was a band called Dead Hot in Seattle for a while. And the funny thing is, they were so bad it was good. Like it wasn't bad, and because it's art, so to me there is no bad, but there is a certain level I think between where most people collectively would say, like, that music just feeds my soul because it is so freaking beautiful. And there's others that's like, man, that feeds my soul because it's absurd and I love it. And those are the kinds of bands that did that. And they got a lot of notoriety because people liked that they were willing to be silly and have fun and do things like that. And I know most everybody's all worried about, oh, but you got to have it be perfect before you can do it. No. And so we got the Wrong Note song going, and it actually made me laugh because it later on, as more musicians came in and out of the house, some of them I found on Craigslist, others were friends of friends, and just like we had so much fun with music. Um, it almost became a funny test because the Wrong Note song became a warm up. Like when we'd be stuck, we'd play the Wrong Note song, and mostly I'd be over on the bass or on the guitar, just like just like putting weird ass notes together in whatever order, and then intentionally changing the timing and the rhythm so that it wasn't a thing. But if we did that for a while, we could actually get to where we'd find some good notes, or even a combination of notes you wouldn't expect and chords you wouldn't expect that actually sounded good together. We created a couple songs that way, so it's really funny to have the Wrong Note song. And we could usually tell like who could play with us. Like I could never claim to be on my DM's level, like musically, but we had a certain level that was like I like that standard. I like having something that like he's always growing in that, and he started out at such a level and um, had enough, what do you call it, solitude, where music was his reprieve to things that I could never catch up to that. But I like that. I like that because there's always more I can learn. There's always more I can get into. And he's always getting, especially with Separation, getting into newer and newer genres and stuff and really stretching things out. And it's like yes, do that because mostly for his own thing. But like I like that too on any level with any of my friends, any people I know, when they have stuff that they are really special at, and especially things that sometimes we can come together on it, and join in on that. That was always one of my favorite things. But yes, the Wrong Note song, and I think this video is showing me how many other parts of the story of us that I can add in. It's kind of interesting trying to put it into smaller chunks and stuff. In any case, let's see. I know there was somebody said something. Oh, we would start banging and drumming and whistling and beatboxing just for fun. That's funny. No, I'm not driving. I am sitting in my car though. Yeah, so that's cool that you would be able to do that too. I know a lot of twin flames do have musical connections with their twins and stuff. And it never hurts to get out and share your story too. Helps others who are wrapped up in their own stories. All right, y'all. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.